Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
So, Joel, have you ever heard of war games?
I've heard of the movie. Is that what you're talking about?
Besides that, so there's in the security and hacker communities, there's this concept called war games, and what they do is someone who's very good at setting up scenarios and thinking of attack vectors will set up a number of increasingly difficult stages on websites or servers, and then you try to hack into them, find a security hole. Sometimes they call it capture the flag too, because you go from each
I've heard of
place,
that. Mhm.
to capture whatever, and you move on through the thing. So that's kind of where I started out in my career, is much more in that area. And so that's kind of, I guess, wherever you start out kind of shapes your thinking.
Yeah.
So earlier, I think I also mentioned I did some tech support, and so I've always had a little bit of a empathetic, yet you're out to attack me attitude,
Okay.
which is a weird combination.
the empathetic paranoia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You're a great person, but why are you trying to attack me? And so because of that, I'm always thinking about security related things. And especially now we're hearing about the news all the time, stuff being leaked and all this kind of stuff, and people thinking it's not going to happen to me though. And pretty much we've seen it's going to happen to everyone all the time. One of the interesting things about those stories though is, and except for a few, they don't ever really get down deep and tell you kind of what happened.
Right.
They're just going to say this was hacked or whatever. And it kind of gives that company and maybe those programmers a bad name too. Like, what actually happened?
Right.
What actually, how did they actually get in there? Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, not only do I want to keep my stuff safe, I just don't like the fact that someone could hack into my stuff. I also think about my name or my company's names or my clients. I want to protect them, because no one like goes in deeper and thinks about what actually happened. If you made some software and someone hacked it, it's going to look bad on you.
Sure.
And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I started really thinking a lot more about validation in Laravel. I like to use a lot of the validation to kind of look for little security holes or things that people shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
I kind of take like a whitelist approach to and say, I'm going to only accept these things. And I kind of have this, I'll call it a healthy paranoia that everyone's out there to attack me or attack my website. Not me personally. And so that's where I kind of focus a lot on validation to kind of stop these things from happening, because I don't want anything bad to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good approach, especially if it's a mindset you're coming from. It kind of shapes decisions you make and maybe even how you test things. And yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And I try not to take it too far, but I want my data to be secure and clean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I come at it from kind of the other side of it, which is the data less paranoia that people are out to get me, and more paranoia that people won't type things in the way that I expect that a normal person would type something in, like a phone number.
Quote, normal person.
Quote, normal person. Well, normal, like they think the same as me. That's where I'm coming from. But validation is something that can save you pain down the road, when all of a sudden you have to pull a report or you want to use this data. It's not just like a blob of text, but now you actually want to like send an SMS to that phone number or something like that. And all of a sudden you find out you have like 48 different possible ways that people have typed in phone numbers. Some of them are incomplete. Some of them have pluses. Some of them have parentheses or dashes or dots, or somebody used heart emojis to separate the segments of their phone number. But the point is,
I do.
Yeah, Aaron, I don't want to call you out, but I'm glad you admitted to that. So, but yeah, I mean, validation, when I'm writing rules, a lot of times I'm kind of thinking about that too, is how can I prevent not just bad data, but like even data that's kind of messy or not the expected format, or preventing somebody from just going nuts and typing something way too long into the name field and throwing an error at the database layer or something like that. So yeah, I see a lot of value in validation for those reasons too. I think we're in agreement that validation good?
I mean, this is going to date me, so maybe don't think about this too much.
Okay.
But I remember one of the very first buffer overflows or exploits that happened in Windows 95 was
Mm.
someone just typed A like 23,000 times in the
Okay.
login screen, and that took him in. So
Wow.
I always think about that too. Like there's so many weird things that we just don't think about.
Yes, for sure. So you and I have worked together on a number of projects, and we've kind of developed a way of writing validation. And different teams might choose different standards, but
Mhm.
I think having a standard and as a team agreeing like what is the right way to write, what is the correct way to
Right.
write validation? It sounded confusing. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Like the first question, where do I put the validation rules? You can maybe think of a few different places you could put it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of them.
Mhm.
The format of the rules,
Sure.
how in depth you're going to get. There can be how soon do you want to stop someone in the process. I know that's probably hard to understand. So let me give you an example. Like if we have a rule that has an in, so you have all
Hmm.
these in items it can be, and they all happen to be numbers. Do you also check to make sure that it's numeric first and
Okay.
stop them there before you check the in? Things
Yeah.
like that. And then also, do you use bail? Do you stop on just the first error? Do you let all the fields kind of validate? All those different things like that are good standards to have too, because they not only help people write code faster, which is what standards also help you with. They
Hmm.
help you review code faster, have less nitpicky things, and then give a good user experience.
Yeah, yeah, those are all important things. Like just a current example of this. So our standard is to always use the array syntax for rules, even if it's simple. Like it literally, if it's just required string, like yeah, you could do that as pipe delimited string. But we've chosen to always use arrays. And I
Mhm.
sort of have internalized that, and I don't think about it a lot anymore. But I was dusting off an old code base and looking through some old form requests. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this? And it just because it was just different from the way we normally do it. There was this little extra mental overhead, and I just immediately didn't like it. So not that any
Right.
one way is right or wrong, but we've chosen that approach because of some specific benefits. But yeah, just looking at that other one, had this mental overhead, and I'm like, I can't imagine being on a team where some people are doing it one way and some people are doing it another way. Pull requests and kind of jumping to different sections of the code could get really difficult with all those different styles.
It's funny you said the right way or the correct way, and then you're like, well, maybe not the correct way. It's the correct way for your team and for your
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, now when you're talking about correct, I also think about too. Every time I go to the Laravel documentation, there's tons of rules.
Mhm.
Which one is the right one to use?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and actually, what's pretty interesting too is Laravel's constantly evolving, and they're adding new rules pretty much. Well, not every week, but they can happen in the weekly
sure.
releases or the minor versions.
Yeah, I mean that happened fairly recently, right? Within the last several weeks, there was that new prohibited if and prohibited
Hmm.
unless rules, and those probably not ones I've reached for. In fact, I don't think I've even used prohibited, but there was a there was already exclude if and exclude unless and required if, and so
Hmm.
it was kind of adding some symmetry to the code base, and somebody had a need for it, and so that itch was scratched, and it was added to the docs. It was added to the framework. But yeah, I mean that, to your point, unless you're looking at the docs or following a news feed or watching the PRs, you might not even know about new rules that are available for you to use.
I think a lot of people are a little. Its validation isn't the most exciting thing,
No.
but there are a lot of good reasons to make sure you kind of focus on it. Like you said, yours is you focus a lot on data integrity, and I
Mhm.
do security, and yeah, you have to keep up to date with that.
For sure. So so keeping up to date, figuring out the right rules. It's no coincidence we're talking about this because we've been working
Why, Joel?
we've been working really hard on a really complete reference on the topic of validation. So both a book and some accompanying exercises to help you practice. So if you're intrigued by this discussion, make sure to listen to the end. Our final little tidbit will have a URL where you can get more information on the book.
So they say it's not odd. I mean, it's not very strange. There's a 1 in 12 chance as a man that I'd be colorblind.
Okay.
And let me tell you, I'm pretty colorblind.
Is there degrees of that?
Yeah, there's different types
Okay.
of colorblindness.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have red green. There, there's different shades and hues, and it can be worse or not. But invariably, what happens is if I mention I'm colorblind to someone, the first thing they do is they find something and they hold it up and they ask me, "What color is this?"
Okay.
First of all, that's super annoying, right? It's like, oh, I know what's happening. As soon as I say colorblind, they're like, "Oh, what color is this?" And I look at it, I'm like, "Well, that's blue." And they're like, "No, it's navy blue."
Oh boy.
Well, I don't even. Sure, I bet most people get that wrong. Like when you ask someone, like, "What color is my shirt?" Well, it's burnt sienna. No, it's like
Periwinkle.
But I got a lot of guff for this when I was growing up. My colorblindness and I'd wear a lot of black, not because I was some emo kid, but just because hey, that's color I can see real well.
There you go. Yeah.
So I was wearing a bunch of sweatshirts. They're all black, different brands, and someone said, "Why don't you get a different color sweatshirt?" I was like, "Fine." So I went to the store. And I found a sweatshirt I really liked, and lo and behold, it was green. But I was like, I'm just going to make sure because I know I'm colorblind, and I didn't think to ask someone. But I took it over by the home and garden section, and I found a fake plant, and I held up the sweatshirt to the fake plant tree leaf, and they were the same. And so I was like, yes, green sweatshirt. So I bought the sweatshirt and I wore it to school the next day. Kids again were like, "Why another black sweatshirt?" I was like, "What?" Well, it turns out I'd grabbed the wrong side of the fake tree leaf. The front was green, the bottom was black. And so I mentioned up to the black one again. So yeah. I've only ran a couple stoplights. I tell you what, if you have a stop sign on your property, and it's by some trees or bushes and stuff like that, maybe cut those down so people like me who can see the stop sign, I guess.
Good advice. I'm learning so much. I guess the first thing I'd say, Aaron, though, when they tease you for the black sweatshirt again, you'd be like, "This isn't black, it's charcoal."
So when I go to my high school reunion,
right. Have that queued up, ready to go.
Remember how you used to pick on me? Well, it's charcoal.
Yeah. The only thing I can relate to as a color visible person, what's the opposite of colorblind? Color seeing. When I go to the eye doctor once a year for a checkup, part of what they do is they test your color vision, and I always start panicking towards the end because even though I'm not colorblind, they're like so similar. I'm like, is that like 27 or is it like 26? I can't tell the difference. So,
all right, you said something I just totally forgot about. You said towards the end. I get the first one. It's 72 or 76.
Okay.
After that, I can't see any of them.
All right. Fair enough.
Well, a promise is a promise, Joel. I want to know more about that book.
I can definitely help with that. If you're interested and want to learn more, head to our website at nocompromises.io/book to find out more.